Sage collapsed against the courthouse wall as Maverick, her loyal husky who had slept beside her hospital bed during chemo, whimpered in confusion while being dragged away by her ex. "He's just property," the judge had declared coldly, awarding custody to the man who had never once filled Maverick's food bowl. That evening, wiping away tears, Sage noticed the for sale sign outside Paws and Heart's veterinary clinic where Maverick had been a patient since he was a pup. Something fierce and unstoppable ignited within her. What would you do if the legal system took away the one soul who stood by you when everyone else walked away? The key turned in the lock with a hollow click. Sage pushed open the door to her apartment and froze. Maverick's leash hung on its hook by the door, a ghost of routine. His water bowl sat empty in the kitchen corner. "Mav," she called out instinctively, her voice cracking. The silence that answered was deafening. 3 years ago, she'd brought Maverick home a blue-eyed, 8-pickled ball of fluff that Julian had initially opposed. "Dogs are messy. They're expensive. They're work," he'd argued. But Sage had insisted, and Julian had relented, if only to avoid a fight. She'd been the one to housebreak Maverick, to take him to training classes, to schedule his vet appointments. Julian barely acknowledged the puppy's existence until Sage got sick. Bad stage 3 breast cancer at 32. Julian had been supportive at first, driving her to appointments, holding her hand through the diagnosis. But as the chemo took her hair, as the medications made her sick, as her body changed, he'd grown distant, started working late, started sleeping in the guest room, started having an affair. Maverick, though Maverick never left her side, he'd curl up at the foot of her bed on the days she couldn't stand. He'd rest his head on her lap during chemo treatments the hospital allowed him to attend as a comfort animal. He'd lick away her tears when the pain became unbearable. The divorce papers had come just 2 weeks after her final treatment. Irreconcilable differences, the paperwork said. The difference being that Julian couldn't reconcile himself to a wife who'd faced mortality and come out changed. Now, 6 months later, Julian had taken the one thing that had remained loyal. "He's worth more than the dog," Julian's attorney had argued. "He can provide a more stable home environment. Ms. Chen works long hours at her marketing firm, while Mr. Chen works from home 3 days a week." What the attorney didn't mention was that Julian had never taken Maverick for a walk, had never learned which food made the husky's stomach upset, had never sat on the bathroom floor with him during thunderstorms because the noise terrified him. Sage sank to the floor beside Maverick's empty bed. Her fingers found the stuffed penguin, his favorite toy, half hidden in the folds of the fabric. She pulled it to her chest and inhaled Maverick's scent. The sobs came in waves, crashing through her body until she could barely breathe. Her phone buzzed. A text from her friend Zoe. How did it go? Sage couldn't bring herself to answer. Instead, she crawled into her own bed, still clutching the penguin, and stared at the ceiling until dawn broke. She didn't sleep. How could she, without the familiar weight of Maverick pressed against her legs? Morning came with cruel persistence. Sage showered mechanically, dressed without seeing, and forced down half a slice of toast. She couldn't afford to miss work, even with grief sitting like cement in her chest. The drive to the marketing agency where she worked as a digital strategist took her past Paws and Heart's veterinary clinic. For 5 years, she'd been bringing Maverick here for his puppy shots, for the time he'd eaten half a chocolate cake, for his annual checkups. Today, something was different. A large red "for sale" sign stood in front of the small brick building. Sage's foot hit the brake instinctively. She pulled into the parking lot without thinking, putting her car in park and staring at the sign, as though it might be a mirage. The bell above the door jingled as she entered. The familiar smell antiseptic with notes of pet shampoo hit her. Immediately, Sage, Dr. Rivera, emerged from an exam room, her silver-streaked black hair pulled back in its usual bun. "I didn't think you had an appointment today." Her eyes softened. "Where's Maverick?" The simple question threatened to unravel Sage completely. "Julian got custody yesterday," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Rivera's warm brown eyes widened. "Oh, honey." She touched Sage's arm gently. "I'm so sorry. That man wouldn't know which end of a dog to feed." The unexpected validation loosened something in Sage's chest. "The sign outside you're selling," Dr. Rivera sighed, gesturing toward her office. "Come sit, Rosa. Hold my calls for 10 minutes. The office was cluttered but cozy, with framed veterinary diplomas alongside photos of Dr. Rivera, with various animals, mostly rescues she'd treated pro bono over the years. "I'm retiring," she explained, sinking into her chair. 35 years is enough. My arthritis is making surgery difficult, and frankly, the business side has become a nightmare. Insurance, suppliers, raising prices, trying to keep services affordable for people who treat their pets like family but can't afford corporate vet prices. So what happens to the clinic? Sage asked. Ideally, another independent vet buys it. Realistically, Dr. Rivera shrugged. Some corporate chain acquires it, raises all the prices, cuts the staff, and turns it into an assembly line for pets. Sage glanced at a photo on the wall, a much younger Dr. Rivera kneeling beside a blue-eyed husky puppy. Is that Kodiak, my first husky? The reason I became a vet? Dr. Rivera smiled sadly. I understand what you're going through, losing Maverick. Something clicked in Sage's mind. The settlement money from the divorce, her savings, the knowledge she'd gained running digital marketing for small businesses. How much? The question left her lips before she'd fully formed the thought. For the clinic. Dr. Rivera looked confused. Sage, you're not a veterinarian. No, Sage agreed, but I know business. I know marketing. And I know what this place means to the community. She leaned forward. How much are you asking? You want to buy a veterinary clinic? Zoe's spoonful of ramen paused halfway to her mouth. Because your ex got your dog. Sage winced at the blunt assessment. They sat in their favorite noodle shop, the lunch crowd thinning as afternoon approached. It sounds crazy when you put it like that. It sounds crazy, period. Zoe set down her spoon. As Sage's friend since college, and a financial advisor by profession, she never sugarcoated anything. How much are we talking? $350,000 for the business, equipment, and property. Sage pushed her barely touched bowl aside. I have the settlement money from the house, plus my savings. I'd need a small business loan for the rest. Zoe's eyebrows shot up. That's your entire safety net. After everything you've been through, I know. And running a business is nothing like marketing for one. It's constant stress, especially in the first few years. I know that too. And this is clearly a grief reaction to losing Maverick. It's not just about Maverick, Sage interrupted, though they both knew that wasn't entirely true. Paws and Hearts is the only independent vet clinic left in this part of the city. If a corporate chain buys it, they'll jack up all the prices, fire half the staff, and push unnecessary services to maximize profit. Zoe studied her friend's face. You've already made up your mind. I need to do something that matters. Zoe Sage's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Cancer showed me how short life is. The divorce showed me how quickly everything can change. I don't want to spend the next 20 years helping companies sell more stuff nobody needs, and sticking it to Julian is just a bonus. Zoe asked with a knowing look. A small, fierce smile flickered across Sage's face. Maybe. Zoe sighed, pulling out her tablets. Okay, let's look at the numbers. You'll need a business plan, cash flow, projections. Double quotes. She began typing. Do you even know how a vet clinic operates? Dr. Rivera has agreed to stay on part-time for 6 months to help with the transition, and they have a full staff to other vets, vet techs, reception. I'd be handling the business side, and you've run this by your oncologist. Taking on this kind of stress when you're still in recovery. Sage's fingers unconsciously traced the port scar beneath her shirt. I'm in remission, Zoe. I can't put my life on hold forever. For the next hour, they dissected the financials. The clinic was marginally profitable but underperforming due to outdated systems and minimal marketing. With the right updates, streamlined processes, and better online presence, I could increase revenue by at least 20% in the first year, Sage explained. That's assuming everything goes perfectly. Zoe chewed her lip, which it won't, because it never does. So, I'll adapt. Like I did with chemo, like I did with the divorce. Zoe closed her tablet case with a snap. You know I think this is impulsive and risky, but Sage prompted. But it's your money. And, Zoe reached across the table to squeeze Sage's hand. If anyone can make this work through sheer determination, it's you. Dr. Rivera eyed the business plan Sage had placed on her desk. You've been busy. I don't do anything halfway, Sage replied. It had been a week since their first conversation. 7 days of late nights researching veterinary practice management, calling business contacts, and putting together financial projections. 7 nights lying awake, missing Maverick. Dr. Rivera flipped through the pages with practiced precision. Your marketing ideas are solid. The digital scheduling system would save Rosa hours of phone time. And I like the community outreach program. She looked up. But I'm still not convinced you understand what you're getting into. I understand enough to know I want this, Sage said, and I'm willing to learn the rest. The veterinarian removed her reading glasses, fixing Sage with a penetrating gaze. Why, really? Because if this is just about getting back at your ex, it's not. Sage leaned forward. When I was sick, I learned which things actually matter. Connection, purpose, making a difference. This clinic matters to people and their pets. I want to make sure it continues to. And Maverick. Sage swallowed hard. Julian doesn't care about him. He only wanted custody to hurt me. Maverick was there for me during chemo when Julian was elsewhere. If I owned the clinic, at least, I might get to see Maverick when Julian brings him in for appointments. Dr. Rivera nodded slowly, then reached for a framed photo on her desk. She handed it to Sage, much younger Dr. Rivera with her arms around a silver-gray husky. Kodiak died 15 years ago. Still miss him every day. She took the photo back, running her thumb over the frame. My ex-husband took him when we separated. Said a dog needed a yard, and his new place had one. My apartment didn't. What happened? He neglected Kodiak. Not intentionally, perhaps, but negligently. Didn't notice the signs of kidney disease until it was advanced. Her expression hardened. By the time he brought Kodiak to me professionally, it was too late. The parallels weren't lost on Sage. Julian doesn't know the first thing about caring for Maverick. No, he doesn't. Dr. Rivera set the photo down, which is why I'm considering your offer. But I need to know you're committed to the clinic itself, to all the animals and clients, not just using it as a means to an end. With Maverick, I am, Sage said firmly. This past week of research has shown me how much I could contribute here, how much the clinic could grow while staying true to your values of accessible care. Dr. Rivera studied her for a long moment. There are other offers, higher ones, from corporate chains that will gut what makes this place special. Yes, the veterinarian sighed. My retirement would be more comfortable with their money, but your legacy would suffer. Sage countered gently. A smile tugged at Dr. Rivera's lips. You're good. I've been in marketing for 10 years. I know how to make a pitch. Sage returned the smile. But this isn't just a pitch. I believe in what this clinic stands for. Dr. Rivera stood, extending her hand. 325,000, and I'll stay on part-time for 6 months to help with the transition. That's my come to alpha. Sage rose to shake her hand, unexpected emotion tightening her throat. Deal. One condition, Dr. Rivera added, not releasing Sage's hand. When you see Maverick again, will you fight like hell to get him back? I promise. The paperwork for the clinic purchase moved faster than Sage expected. 2 weeks of negotiations, inspections, and loan approvals flew by in a blur of signatures and meetings. It provided a welcome distraction from the Maverick-shaped hole in her life. But distraction could only last so long. One evening, driving home from a meeting with the clinic's accountant, Sage found herself taking a detour. Julian had moved into a luxury apartment building downtown, the kind with a doorman and a rooftop dog park. She told herself she just wanted to see the building, maybe catch a glimpse of Maverick from a distance. She parked across the street, feeling ridiculous. What was she doing? Stalking her ex-husband. Then she saw them. Julian emerged from the building's revolving door, phone pressed to his ear, looking annoyed. At the end of a leash pulled taut, as Julian dragged him forward, was Maverick. Sage's heart clenched. Even from this distance, she could see Maverick's ribs more prominently than before. His coat looked dull. A blonde woman in stilettos followed them out, tottering to keep up. Julian's new girlfriend, Sage, presumed the one he'd been seeing while Sage was still in chemotherapy. Maverick suddenly stopped, nose in the air. He turned his head toward Sage's car and froze. Even through the windshield, across the street, their eyes met. Mav, Sage whispered, her fingers pressed against the glass. The husky lunged in her direction, nearly pulling Julian off his feet. Maverick heel. Julian yanked the leash hard. Too hard. Maverick yelped. Sage's hand was on the door handle before she realized what she was doing. She forced herself to stop. Making a scene wouldn't help Maverick. It would only make Julian more spiteful. Julian and the blonde continued down the sidewalk, Maverick looking back repeatedly, until they turned the corner. Sage followed at a distance, parking again half a block away. She watched as they entered a high-end pet boutique. 10 minutes later, they emerged with Julian carrying shopping bags, the blonde now holding Maverick's leash with obvious discomfort. They walked 2 more blocks to a storefront with a colorful sign, "Downtown Doggy Daycare." Julian took the leash, led Maverick inside, and came out alone with the blonde. 5 minutes later, they got into a waiting rideshare and disappeared. Sage sat in her car, processing. Julian was leaving Maverick at daycare probably while he worked. At least the dog wasn't alone all day in the apartment, but evening drop-off seemed strange. She checked the time, 6:30 p.m. Impulsively, she got out and walked to the daycare center. A young man with multiple piercings looked up from the reception desk. "We're about to close. Drop-offs are for tomorrow." "I'm not here for a drop-off," Sage said. "That husky that just came in, is he a regular?" The receptionist raised an eyebrow. "We don't discuss clients." Sage fumbled for a believable lie. I think I recognize him from the dog park. Blue eyes, distinctive markings." "Oh, Maverick." The receptionist's face softened. "Yeah, he's here most nights. Poor guy." "Most nights," he shrugged. "His owner drops him off on his way to dinner, or whatever. Picks him up before we close at 10. Been happening about 4 times a week since they started coming here." Julian was dumping Maverick at daycare in the evenings so he could go out. The realization made Sage's blood boil. "Is he okay?" He looked thin. "New environment, stress, probably. He doesn't eat well here." The receptionist glanced at the back room. "I sneak him extra treats when I can." "Thank you for that," Sage said, softly. "He likes salmon best." "I'll remember that." He gave her a curious look. "You seem to know him pretty well." Sage turned to leave before her emotions betrayed her. The conference room at Paws and Hearts had never been so full. Every staff member from the most senior veterinarian to the newest kennel assistant had squeezed in for the meeting. The anxiety in the room was palpable. Sage stood at the front beside Dr. Rivera, trying to project confidence despite her racing heart. "As most of you know," Dr. Rivera began, "I've decided it's time to retire after 30. I'm pleased to introduce Sage Chen, the new owner of Paws and Hearts." Murmurs rippled through the room. Sage could read the uncertainty on their faces. Who was this outsider? What changes would she bring? "I know what you're thinking," Sage said, cutting to the chase. "I'm not a vet. I don't have medical training. So why am I here?" She paused. "I'm here because I believe in what this clinic stands for. Compassionate care. Treating pets like family. Being accessible to everyone, not just those who can afford premium prices." She gestured to Dr. Rivera. "Dr. Rivera has built something special here. My job isn't to change the tits, to make sure it thrives." A hand went up from a middle-aged woman in scrubs. "Will our jobs be secure?" "Yes," Sage said firmly. "No layoffs. In fact, as we grow, we'll likely need to hire, and no cuts to benefits, either." The tension in the room eased slightly, but skepticism remained. Dr. Patel, the youngest veterinarian, spoke next. "What's your experience in veterinary practice management?" "None," Sage admitted candidly. "My background is in digital marketing and business strategy, but I'm a fast learner, and Dr. Rivera will be staying on part-time to help with the transition." She clicked to the first slide of her presentation. "What I do bring is a plan to streamline our systems, improve our online presence, and increase revenue without compromising care." For the next 20 minutes, Sage outlined her vision: digital scheduling to reduce phone traffic, an updated website, targeted social media, community outreach programs, and streamlined inventory management. "Bottom line," she concluded, "these changes mean you'll spend less time on paperwork and phone calls, and more time with the animals you care for." The staff exchanged glances. Some looked cautiously optimistic, others remained reserved. Rosa, the head receptionist who'd been with the clinic for 2 decades, finally spoke. "Why do you really want this place? There are easier businesses to buy." The directness of the question caught Sage off guard. She considered giving her prepared answer about community investment and growth potential. Instead, she opted for honesty. "I recently lost my dog in a divorce." Her voice wavered slightly. "He was there for me through cancer treatment when my ex wasn't. The court still gave my ex custody, despite him barely acknowledging Maverick's existence for years." The room went silent. "I know what it's like to love an animal that deeply, to see them as family. That's the kind of understanding I want driving this clinic, not corporate metrics or shareholder returns." Dr. Rivera touched Sage's shoulder gently. Any other questions? The staff meeting concluded with tentative acceptance. Not enthusiasm yet, but willingness to give Sage a chance. As people filed out, Dr. Patel lingered. That was brave, she said. Being vulnerable like that. It wasn't planned, Sage admitted. Those are usually the best moments. Dr. Patel smiled. For what it's worth, I think you'll be good for this place. I hope so. And your dog Maverick, right? I hope you get him back. Sage nodded, not trusting herself to speak. If you need medical documentation about his care when you do, Dr. Patel added quietly, just ask. 3 weeks into ownership, Sage sat at her new desk formally, Dr. Rivera's, reviewing the clinic's policies and procedures manual. The document was outdated, with sections clearly untouched for years. Rosa, she called, do you have a minute? The receptionist appeared in the doorway, her silver-framed glasses perched on her nose. Though initially the most skeptical of Sage, takeover Rosa had proven invaluable during the transition, a walking encyclopedia of clinic operations. The client policies need updating, Sage said, turning her monitor to show Rosa the document. There's nothing here about refusing service. Rosa frowned. Refuse service? We don't turn away animals in need. Of course not. But what about clients who mistreat their pets, who ignore medical advice repeatedly, who are abusive to staff? We've had a few of those, Rosa admitted. Dr. Rivera usually just handled it. Nothing formal. I want something in writing. Clear guidelines for when we can refuse service, with staff discretion built in. Rosa studied Sage's face. This is about your ex, isn't it? And Maverick. Sage didn't deny it. Partly. But it's also good business practice to have clear policies. True? Rosa pulled up a chair. What did you have in mind? For the next hour, they drafted what Sage called the client's standards policy. The document outlined conditions under which paws and hearts could refuse or terminate service, documented neglect or abuse of an animal, repeated failure to follow critical medical advice, resulting in harm, threatening, or abusive behavior, toward staff non-payment of bills, after reasonable accommodation, attempts, and finally, the clause Sage had been building toward, at the discretion of management for any reason deemed in the best interest of the practice, staff, or animals under care. That last one is pretty broad, Rosa noted, adjusting her glasses. Intentionally so, Sage replied. Some situations can't be predicted. Rosa gave her a knowing look. Like your ex bringing in Maverick. If that happens, Sage said carefully, I want the legal right to refuse service. And if he goes to another vet? Sage had considered this. Then, at least I'll have tried. But Julian is lazy. He chose this clinic because it was close to our old house. If it's still the most convenient option, he'll keep coming. Rosa nodded slowly. I'll support this policy. The staff will too. We've all had clients who made our jobs miserable. Thank you. After Rosa left, Dr. Rivera knocked on the open door. How's it going? Good, Sage said, gesturing to the document on her screen. Just updating some policies. Dr. Rivera scanned the text, her expression shifting from curiosity to understanding. Ah, I see what you're doing. Is it too obvious? To me, yes. To your ex, probably not. She leaned against the doorframe. You're playing a long game. I learned from the best, Sage said, nodding toward the older woman. You've been managing difficult clients for decades. True, though I never bought a clinic to ban one. They shared a small laugh. When is Maverick due for his annual exam? Dr. Rivera asked. Next month, Sage replied. She'd checked his records the day after taking ownership, assuming Julian keeps the appointment, and if he does. Sage swiveled in her chair, gazing out the window at the clinic's small garden where staff took breaks. Then I implement the policy. Dr. Rivera was quiet for a moment. You know this could backfire. He could file a complaint, try to cause trouble. Let him try, Sage said, a new hardness in her voice. I've survived cancer and divorce in the same. Yeah, I can handle whatever Julian throws at me. Just be careful, Dr. Rivera cautioned. Don't let revenge cloud your judgment about what's best for the clinic. It's not about revenge, Sage insisted. It's about justice. For Maverick, Dr. Rivera nodded, unconvinced but supportive. I'll back you either way. Just remember what I said when we made this deal. If you're going to fight for Maverick, fight like hell. Sage finished. I remember. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Paws and Hearts Veterinary Clinic. This is Rosa. How can I help you? Sage was reviewing inventory reports in her office when Rosa appeared in the doorway, her expression tense. "It's him," she mouthed, pointing to the phone. Sage's pulse quickened. She nodded for Rosa to continue. "Yes, Mr. Chen, we do have Maverick's records. Annual exam and vaccinations. Yes, we have availability next Thursday at 2 p.m. Perfect, we'll see you then." Rosa hung up and looked at Sage. "He didn't recognize my voice. I've only spoken to him a few times before. Did he sound ... How did he sound?" Sage couldn't help asking. Annoyed, like scheduling his dog's healthcare was an inconvenience. Rosa's disapproval was evident. "He asked if we could just do everything in one visit so he wouldn't have to keep coming back. Typical Julian. Always looking for shortcuts." "Thursday at 2, Sage repeated, already mentally rearranging her schedule. "That gives us 9 days to prepare." For the next week, Sage meticulously planned for the confrontation. She reviewed the clinic's new policies with the entire staff, ensuring everyone understood the procedure. Dr. Patel was scheduled as Maverick's examining vet. Her calm demeanor would be essential if things got heated. The staff rallied around Sage with unexpected solidarity. Even those who had been skeptical of her ownership now formed a protective circle. They'd seen her dedication to the clinic over the past month, the late nights, the system improvements, the genuine care for their patients. The night before the appointment, Sage barely slept. She rehearsed what she would say, how she would remain professional despite the hurricane of emotions. By morning, dark circles shadowed her eyes, but determination sharpened her focus. She arrived at the clinic early, changing from her usual business casual into a more formal outfit or charcoal pantsuit that made her look authoritative, confident, the armor she needed. At 1:30, she gathered the front desk staff for a final briefing. "When they arrive, Rosa will check them in normally. Dr. Patel will be notified and prepare exam room 3. Sage took a steadying breath. "Once they're in the waiting area, I'll come out. No one says anything about me being the owner until then. I want to see his reaction." "What if he just leaves when he sees you?" asked the younger receptionist, Ava. "He won't," Sage said with certainty. "Julian hates inconvenience more than he hates me. He won't want to reschedule at another clinic." Rosa squeezed Sage's arm gently. "We're all with you." At 1:55, Sage retreated to her office, leaving the door cracked so she could hear the reception area. Her hands trembled slightly as she reviewed the client's standards. Policy one last time. The front door chimed at precisely 2 p.m. "I have an appointment for Maverick Chen." Julian's unmistakable voice carried down the hallway. Sage closed her eyes briefly, centering herself. "Yes, Mr. Chen." Rosa replied with professional courtesy. "If you'll just sign in here, the doctor will be with you shortly." Sage stepped to her office doorway, peering through the crack. Julian stood at the reception desk in an expensive suit, impatience radiating from him. At the end of a leash sat Maverick, noticeably thinner than when Sage had last seen him up close. Her heart constricted painfully. The husky's once lustrous coat looked dull, and he sat with none of his usual alertness. But when a door opened somewhere in the clinic, his ears perked up, head swiveling, hopefully as if expecting Sage to appear. She pulled back from the doorway, gathering her courage. It was time. Sage stepped into the waiting room, clipboard in hand like a shield. The moment felt surreal, like watching herself from a distance as she approached the man who had abandoned her during cancer and stolen her dog in divorce. Julian was scrolling through his phone, not bothering to look up. Maverick, however, sensed her immediately. The husky's head snapped up, blue eyes widening with recognition. A high-pitched whine escaped him as he scrambled to his feet, pulling frantically against his leash. Only then did Julian look up, first at Maverick in annoyance, then following the dog's gaze to Sage. His expression transformed from confusion to disbelief to anger in the span of seconds. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. Sage ignored him, kneeling to Maverick's level. The husky was straining toward her with such force that his collar dug into his neck. "Hi, buddy," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. Julian yanked Maverick's leash. "Stop it," he snapped at the dog before turning back to Sage. "Are you working here now? Is this some kind of stalking?" Rosa and Ava exchanged glances behind the reception desk. The few other clients in the waiting room watched with uncomfortable fascination. Sage stood, straightening her spine. "I'm not working here, Julian. I own the clinic." His mouth opened, then closed. For once, The always articulate corporate lawyer was speechless. Miss Chen, Rosa called from behind the desk, playing her part perfectly. Should I show Mr. Chen to exam room 3? Dr. Patel is ready for Maverick's examination. That won't be necessary, Sage replied, not breaking eye contact with Julian. Mr. Chen won't be staying. Julian recovered his voice. What the hell are you talking about? We have an appointment, had Sage corrected. Paws in Hearts reserves the right to refuse service to anyone, particularly those with documented history of animal neglect. Neglect, Julian scoffed. I take perfect care of this dog. Sage knelt again, gently running her hand along Maverick's protruding ribs. He's lost at least 10 pounds since you took custody. His coat is dull from poor nutrition. And according to the staff at Downtown Doggy Daycare, he barely eats when you dump him there 4 nights a week so you can go out with your girlfriend. Julian's face flushed. You've been spying on me. No, Julian. I've been concerned about Maverick. She stood again. As the owner of this establishment, I'm officially informing you that we will no longer provide veterinary services to you or any animal in your care. You can't do that, Julian sputtered. Actually, I can. Sage handed him a printed copy of the client's standards policy. It's all outlined here. You're welcome to find another veterinary clinic. Julian glanced down at the document, then crumpled it in his fist. This is ridiculous. I'll sue you for discrimination. On what grounds? Sage asked calmly. Being your ex-wife isn't a protected class. Neither is being a neglectful pet owner. Maverick winced again, still straining toward Sage. Fine, Julian snapped. Come on, Maverick. He tugged the leash harshly. The husky planted his feet, refusing to move. Julian's face darkened. Now, don't pull him like that, Sage warned, a dangerous edge in her voice. He's my dog, Julian retorted. The court said so. I'll handle him. However, I want. When he yanked the leash again, Sage stepped forward. Stop. You're hurting him. You want to see the court order again. Julian pulled out his phone. I have it right here. Maverick is legally my property. The word property hit Sage like a physical blow. The same word the judge had used. In that moment, something inside her snapped, not toward violence or hysteria, but toward absolute clarity. Maverick isn't property, she said quietly. He's a living being who deserves better than being used as a pawn in your revenge. Julian laughed dismissively. Saved the speech. We're leaving. He turned to go, dragging the resistant husky toward the door. What happened next would later be described differently by everyone present. Julian would claim Maverick lunged. Rosa would insist he simply sat down. The truth lay somewhere in between. As Julian pulled, Maverick twisted, the leash momentarily slipping from Julian's grasp. In the split second of freedom, Maverick made his choice. He bolted straight to Sage. Maverick pressed against Sage's legs. Trembling, she placed a protective hand on his head, feeling his racing heart through her fingertips. Julian lunged for the leash. Give me my dog, Sir. Rosa interjected, coming around the reception desk. I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice. You're disturbing our other clients. Indeed, the waiting room had gone silent. An elderly woman clutched her cat carrier closer. A young couple with a puppy watched wide-eyed. Julian ignored Rosa, focusing his fury on Sage. This is theft. I'll have you arrested. Let's all take a breath, Sage suggested, her outward calm belying the adrenaline coursing through her. Dr. Patel, would you mind examining Maverick while Mr. Chen and I discuss this in my office? Dr. Patel stepped forward from the hallway where she'd been, observing, of course. Come on, Bets. The husky looked up at Sage uncertainly. It's okay, buddy, she assured him. Go with Dr. Patel. She'll take good care of you. Reluctantly, Maverick allowed the veterinarian to lead him away, looking back at Sage until they disappeared down the hall. My office, Sage said to Julian, gesturing toward the door. I'm not going anywhere without my dog. Your dog is getting the medical attention he needs, Sage countered. Unless you'd prefer I call animal control right now to report suspected neglect. Julian's eyes narrowed, but he followed her to the office. Once inside, with the door closed, he didn't wait for her to speak. What's your game here, Sage? You buy this place just to mess with me? I bought this place because it mattered to me, she replied, taking her seat behind the desk. Banning you is just a bonus. This is harassment. No, Julian Harsman was taking Maverick to hurt me when you don't even care about him. The court didn't know you'd neglect him, Sage interrupted. They didn't know you'd dump him at daycare night after night while you went out with your girlfriend. Julian's composure slipped further. You have no right. I have every right to refuse service at my business. I also have a responsibility to report suspected animal neglect. She leveled her gaze at him. Which is exactly what I'll do if you try to take Maverick from here today. A knock at the door interrupted them. Dr. Patel entered, her expression professionally neutral. I've completed Maverick's examination, she said, handing a file to Sage. Sage scanned the report, her jaw tightening. She passed it to Julian. Weight, loss of 12 pounds since his last visit. Mild dehydration. Early signs of nutritional deficiency. Julian barely glanced at the paper. He's fine. He's just adjusting to the new place. It's been 2 months, Sage pointed out, and these issues are consistent with neglect, not adjustment. Dr. Patel cleared her throat. As Maverick's attending veterinarian, I would be professionally obligated to report these findings if he leaves with you today, Mr. Chen. Julian looked between them, realization dawning. You're in on this together. We're doing our jobs, Dr. Patel replied coolly, advocating for our patient. This is insane, Julian muttered. I don't have time for this. He checked his watch. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. Then you should go, Sage suggested. Leave Maverick here. We'll make sure he gets the care he needs. And then what? You keep my dog. We document his condition, treat him, and contact animal control to determine appropriate next steps. Julian's face reddened. I'll sue this clinic into the ground. You're welcome to try, Sage replied. But I think you'll find a lawsuit much more inconvenient than finding a different solution. The calculation was visible on Julian's face, weighing the hassle of a legal battle against his desire to hurt Sage. Practicality won. Fine, he snapped, standing abruptly. Keep the damn dog for now, but this isn't over. He stormed out, slamming the office door behind him. Dr. Patel raised an eyebrow. That went better than expected. He'll be back, Sage said, already mentally preparing for the next battle. With lawyers, probably, but not today, Dr. Patel pointed out. Today, Maverick is safe. Where is he? Exam room 3. Wondering where you are. Sage stood, emotion finally breaking through her professional facade. Thank you, Priya. The veterinarian smiled. Go see your dog, Sage. The cease and desist letter arrived 3 days later, delivered by courier to the clinic. Sage expected it. Julian was nothing if not predictable in his use of legal intimidation. She'd already contacted her own lawyer, Tariq, an old college friend who specialized in both animal welfare law and business disputes. These allegations are laughable, Tariq said over video chat that evening, gesturing with the letter. He claims you orchestrated a plot to steal his property, that you abused your position as a business owner and fabricated medical evidence. Sage sat at her kitchen table. Maverick curled at her feet. The husky had hardly left her side since coming home with her. He'd already gained 2 pounds on a proper diet. Can he actually do anything? Sage asked. Technically, yes. The court did award him custody. But Tariq continued. We have considerable, countervailing evidence of neglect, documented by a licensed veterinarian. Dr. Patel's report? Exactly. Plus testimony from the daycare staff about his pattern of dumping Maverick there after hours. Sage rubbed her temples. So what do? We respond to the cease and desist with our own letter. We outline the evidence of neglect and note that it's been reported to animal control. We remind him that pursuing this further will result in public record of his neglect. Will that stop him? Tariq's expression turned serious. Maybe. Julian's a corporate lawyer. Image matters to him. But this is personal, which means he might not be thinking clearly. Sage nodded, absently stroking Maverick's fur. The husky sighed, contentedly, oblivious to the legal battle brewing over him. There's another option, Tariq suggested. We could file for custody reconsideration proactively. New evidence of neglect is grounds for reopening the case. With the same judge who called Maverick property. We'd request a different judge, and we'd frame it differently. Focus on the neglect, not on your personal attachment. Sage considered this. What are our chances? Honestly, it depends. Courts traditionally view pets as property, but that's changing. More judges recognize the unique nature of the human-animal bond. Your case would be stronger if we had a pattern of neglect, not just a single veterinary report. So we wait for Julian to make more mistakes. Unfortunately, yes. Meanwhile, we document everything. Maverick's recovery with you. Any communication from Julian. We build a case. After ending the call, Sage sat on the floor beside Maverick, burying her face in his fur. I'm not letting him take you again, she whispered. I promise. The next morning brought another legal complication. Julian had filed a complaint with the State Veterinary Board against Dr. Patel, alleging she had falsified medical records as a favor to Sage. Dr. Patel took it in stride. My documentation is impeccable, she assured Sage. The board will dismiss this quickly, but the stress was wearing on everyone. Staff jumped whenever the clinic door opened, half expecting Julian or his lawyers to appear. Sage found herself checking the parking lot before leaving each evening. A week passed, then another. The clinic's attorney responded to the cease and desist. Animal control visited both Sage's apartment and Julian's, filing reports that noted Maverick appeared healthy and well cared for at Sage's and no animal present at Julian's. Just as the tension began to ease, Rosa buzzed Sage's office. There's someone here to see you. Says, her name is Kate. No appointment, Kate. Sage frowned. I don't know any. She stopped, remembering. The blonde woman with Julian. Send her back. Moments later, a nervous-looking woman appeared in Sage's doorway. In person, without stilettos. She was younger than Sage, had thought mid-twenties perhaps, with a delicate prettiness Julian had always favored. You're Julian's ex-wife, Kate said. Not a question. And you're Julian's girlfriend, Sage replied evenly. Kate twisted her hands together. Ex-girlfriend, as of last night. I'm sorry to hear that, Sage said, not entirely meaning it. Don't be. Kate took a hesitant step forward. I came because, I think you should know some things about Julian and your dog. The post appeared on Julian's social media at midnight. A lengthy screed about his mentally unstable ex-wife who had used her position to kidnap his dog. He claimed Sage was still bitter about the divorce and unable to accept reality, ending with a call for people to boycott Paws and Heart's veterinary clinic. By morning, Sage's phone was exploding with notifications. Staff called asking what to do. Friends sent screenshots with concerned messages. Zoe arrived at Sage's apartment unannounced, coffee and pastries in hand. I saw Julian's post. That manipulative bastard. Sage sat at her kitchen counter, scrolling through the comments. Some supported Julian, people who knew only his side, or who believed the courts were infallible, but surprisingly, many others defended Sage. Former clients of the clinic shared positive experiences. People who knew them both during their marriage pointed out Julian's pattern of twisting facts. A few even mentioned his affair during her cancer treatment, though Sage had never publicly discussed it. It's actually backfiring on him, Zoe observed, reading over Sage's shoulder. For now, Sage replied, but the clinic could still suffer. Her phone rang. Rosa from the front desk. You need to see this, she said without preamble. Check your email. Sage opened her inbox to find a forwarded message from the clinic's general account. It contained a screenshot of a counterpost from an unexpected source. Kate. I was Julian Chen's girlfriend until recently. What he's not telling you is that he only wanted custody of Maverick to hurt his ex. He complained constantly about having to care for that animal and left him at daycare whenever possible. He forgot to feed him regularly. He yanked his leash when Maverick tried to greet Sage. The judge should review this case with actual evidence of how Julian treated Maverick versus how Sage did. The post had hundreds of shares already. Wow, Zoe breathed. The girlfriend turned on him. Ex-girlfriend, Sage corrected, remembering their conversation. She came to the clinic yesterday. Told me Julian only wanted Maverick to hurt me, that he resented having to care for him. Will she testify to that? She said she would. Another call came in, this time from Tariq. Have you seen a news site? What news site? Local City Today. They picked up the story. Veterinary clinic owner in custody battle over rescued dog. They're framing it as a human interest piece. Sage's stomach dropped. They named me, and Julian, and the clinic. It's getting traction. By afternoon, Sage could barely keep up with the developments. A local TV station called, requesting an interview. The clinic's social media accounts gained hundreds of new followers. Former clients she hadn't seen in years stopped by with supportive messages, but not all the attention was positive. Julian's colleagues from his law firm left negative reviews on the clinic's business page. A few protesters even appeared outside with signs claiming pet theft is still theft. Dr. Rivera called from her retirement vacation. I've been watching this unfold. Are you okay? Hanging in there, Sage replied, watching from her office window as Rosa politely but firmly asked the protesters to leave private property. I never wanted this kind of attention for the clinic. The clinic will survive, Dr. Rivera assured her. You've got the staff and the community behind you. Julian picked the wrong battle. When Sage finally returned to her apartment that evening, exhausted from the day's chaos, she found a certified letter waiting. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a court notice. Julian had filed an emergency petition for the return of Maverick, citing theft of property and intentional infliction of emotional distress. A hearing was scheduled for the following week. Sage sank to the floor, Maverick immediately curling against her side. The husky licked her cheek, sensing her distress. "It's okay, buddy," she whispered, though her voice shook. "We knew this was coming." She took a deep breath and called Tariq. No matter what Julian threw at her, she wouldn't face it alone. She had Maverick, her staff, the clinic community, and now even Julian's ex-girlfriend on her side. The battle was just beginning. But for the first time, Sage felt she might actually win. The cafe was tucked away on a side street, far from both the clinic and Julian's law firm. Sage arrived early, claiming a corner table with her back to the wall, a habit from her cancer treatment days when she'd feared pitying glances. Kate arrived 5 minutes late, looking nervously over her shoulder as she slipped into the chair, across from Sage. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, unwinding a scarf from her neck. "I didn't want to keep coming to the clinic. Julian has friends watching it." "Watching it?" Sage frowned. "To see who goes in and out, to catch you doing something he can use against you." Kate fidgeted with her coffee cup. "He's obsessed with winning this." Sage studied the younger woman. The designer clothes and perfect makeup couldn't hide the shadows under her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. "Why are you helping me?" Sage asked directly. "You don't know me." Kate's gaze dropped to the table. "I know enough. Julian talked about you constantly, always negatively, but still, it was like he was haunted by you and Maverick. That's why I'm here." Kate looked up, newfound resolve in her expression. "Julian never cared about that dog. Not once. He'd complain about having to walk him, feed him, take him out, called him the mutt or Sage's mistake. Then why fight for custody? To hurt you." Kate's bluntness was refreshing. He said it explicitly. "This will kill her," he told his lawyer. "She loves that dog more than anything." Sage absorbed this, unsurprised yet still pained by the confirmation. "The night you took Maverick back," Kate continued, "Julian came home raging, broke a vase, called you every horrible name imaginable. That's when I realized, realized what? That I was with someone capable of using an innocent animal as a weapon." She straightened her spine. "I left the next morning." Sage nodded slowly. "And your social media post?" The truth needed to be told. Kate shrugged. "Julian manipulates narratives, always has. He'll say you're lying out of spite. Let him. I have proof." Kate pulled out her phone, tapping through to her messages. Screenshots of texts where he complains about Maverick, voice messages where he talks about using the dog to get back at you. Sage's breath caught. "You'd share those?" "I already gave copies to your lawyer, Mr. Patel." "Right. Tariq?" "Yes." Sage was momentarily speechless. "Kate, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." Kate put her phone away. "I should have seen Julian's true colors sooner. Maybe if I had, Don't," Sage interrupted gently. "Julian fooled a lot of people, including me, for years." They sat in silence for a moment, two women connected by the same man's cruelty. "There's something else," Kate finally said. "I'm willing to testify at the hearing next week. Julian will try to destroy your reputation, probably. But I can handle it." Kate's smile was sad but determined. "My father's a judge in another county. I grew up around legal battles. Julian doesn't know that." For the first time since Maverick had been taken, Sage felt genuine hope bloom in her chest. With Kate's evidence and testimony, they had a real chance at the hearing. "Why did you stay with him?" Sage couldn't help asking. "After you knew about the affair, about how he treated me during cancer." Kate looked surprised. "He told me you two were already separated when we met, that the cancer came later." Her expression fell. "That was a lie too, wasn't it?" Sage nodded. "God." Kate closed her eyes briefly. "I'm so sorry. I never would have." "I know," Sage said simply. "Julian's very good at his version of reality." As they parted outside the cafe, Kate hesitated, then handed Sage a small paper bag. "What's this?" Maverick's favorite toy, a little blue whale. Julian was going to throw it away, but I saved it. Sage opened the bag, emotion tightening her throat at the sight of the worn plush toy. Thank you, she whispered. Kate nodded once, then walked away, her step lighter than when she'd arrived. Tariq's office overlooked the courthouse where Sage had lost Maverick 2 months earlier. The irony wasn't lost on her as she sat across from him, reviewing their petition for custody reconsideration. It's solid, Tariq assured her, tapping the substantial document. We have documented evidence of neglect from Dr. Patel. We have testimony from the daycare staff about Julian's pattern of dumping Maverick there. We have Kate's texts and voice messages showing Julian's true motivation. And Kate herself, Sage added. Yes, her willingness to testify is crucial. Tariq leaned back in his chair. We've also gathered statements from your neighbors about your bond with Maverick, documentation of his recovery since returning to your care, and character references about your dedication to animal welfare. Sage nodded, scanning the petition one last time before signing. Will it be enough to overcome the original ruling? It should be. The standard for reconsideration is substantial change in circumstances or new evidence not available at the original hearing. We have both. As Tariq's assistant took the petition for filing, Sage's phone buzzed with a text from Rosa. Julian just called the clinic asking about Maverick's medical records. I told him he'd need a court order. Good, Sage replied. Did he threaten anything? Just the usual legal bluster. Don't worry, we're documenting everything. When Sage returned to the clinic that afternoon, she found an unexpected crowd in the waiting room, not clients with pets, but community members with a petition of their own. We heard about your case, explained an elderly woman Sage recognized as a longtime client. We've started a community statement of support. People who know you, know Maverick, know how you care for animals. Sage accepted the clipboard, stunned to see over 100 signatures already. Mrs. Abernathy organized it, Rosa explained, nodding toward the elderly woman. She's been bringing her cats here for 20 years. This is incredible, Sage managed, emotion tightening her throat. You saved this clinic, Mrs. Abernathy said simply. Now we're helping save your dog. The following days brought more support. Clients shared stories of Sage's compassion toward their pets. Veterinary students who had interned at the clinic wrote statements about her dedication to animal welfare. Even Dr. Rivera cut her retirement trip short to add her professional opinion to the petition. Julian's response was predictable. His attorney filed motions to exclude irrelevant character testimony and to strike Kate's evidence as the vindictive fabrications of a disgruntled ex-con. The court denied both motions. When Julian realized he was losing the public relations battle, he tried a new approach, reaching out to Sage directly for the first time since the confrontation at the clinic. We can settle this privately. His text read, split custody, weekdays with me, weekends with you. Sage showed the message to Tariq. He's scared, Tariq observed. He sees the writing on the wall. Should I respond with a counteroffer? Sage thought of Maverick's ribs showing through his coat, the yanked leash, the daycare staff's reports of him barely eating. No, she said firmly. No deals. Maverick isn't a piece of furniture to be shared according to a schedule. He's a living being who deserves to be with someone who truly cares for him. The evening before the hearing, Sage sat on her apartment floor. Maverick sprawled across her lap despite being far too large for it. The husky had regained all his lost weight, his coat once again thick and lustrous. Whatever happens tomorrow, she whispered into his fur, I want you to know these weeks together have meant everything to me. Maverick licked her chin, blue eyes, holding hers with the complete trust only animals can give. Her phone rang. Tariq with last-minute details about the hearing. One piece of good news, he said. Judge Watkins recused herself due to the publicity. We've been reassigned to Judge Martinez. Is that good for us? Very. She's known for considering the welfare of animals in custody cases, not just property law. Hope flickered stronger in Sage's chest. So we have a real chance. More than a chance, Tariq confirmed. Get some sleep, Sage. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. With the hearing still a week away, Sage channeled her nervous energy into the clinic. What had begun as a means to see Maverick again had evolved into a genuine passion for veterinary practice management. The morning after filing their petition, Sage called her marketing firm and tendered her resignation. I need to focus on the clinic full-time, she explained to her surprised boss. It's where I'm meant to be. The staff noticed the change immediately. Sage arrived earlier, stayed later, and dove into every aspect of operations with renewed purpose. "You're really doing this," Rosa observed, finding Sage poring over financial projections late one evening. "Making this your life's work." "I am," Sage agreed, surprised by how right it felt. "For years, I helped companies sell products people didn't need. Now I'm helping a clinic that actually matters to the community." With her marketing background, Sage implemented changes that quickly boosted the clinic's profile. Their social media presence grew, showcasing success stories of rescued animals and highlighting staff expertise. A redesigned website made scheduling easier, reducing phone traffic and freeing Rosa to focus on in-person clients. But Sage's most meaningful innovation came from her own experience with Julian. "We're starting a program for people facing financial hardship," she announced at a staff meeting, "especially those going through medical crises or difficult divorces." The program offered payment plans, sliding scale fees based on income, and a partnership with local rescue organizations to subsidize care for those truly in need. "People shouldn't have to choose between their own treatment and their pets," Sage explained. "Not when that pet might be their greatest source of comfort during crisis." Dr. Patel immediately volunteered to spearhead the program. "I've had to turn away too many clients who couldn't afford care," she said. "This gives us another option." Sage also created a support group that met monthly in the clinic's conference room. Pets and divorce, navigating custody and care. The first meeting drew a modest attendance of 3 people. By the third, they had to move to a larger space to accommodate 15. "I never expected to find others going through this," one man shared, tears in his eyes as he described losing his elderly cat in a bitter divorce. "I thought I was alone in grieving this way." As the hearing approached, the clinic had transformed from a solid but struggling practice into a thriving community resource. Revenue had increased nearly 30%. The new veterinarians had been hired to handle the growing client list. A local news station ran a feature on their financial hardship program, bringing another wave of new clients and community support. Dr. Rivera wouldn't recognize the place, Rosa remarked one busy afternoon, watching the full waiting room. "I think she'd be proud," Sage replied, remembering their initial conversation about preserving the clinic's legacy of compassionate care. The night before the hearing, Sage received an unexpected call from Dr. Rivera. "I just got back in town," the retired veterinarian said. "Thought you should know. I ran into Julian's lawyer at the courthouse today while I was submitting my statement." "What did he say?" "Nothing directly, but I overheard him talking to a colleague. Julian's firm isn't happy about this case. The publicity is making them look bad, especially with Kate's revelations about his behavior during your cancer treatment." "Are they pulling their support?" "Not officially, but reading between the lines, I think Julian is being pressured to settle, to make this go away quietly." Sage considered this. "He's too proud to back down completely." "Maybe," Dr. Rivera agreed, "but pride has its limits when your career is at stake." After they hung up, Sage took Maverick for a long walk, mulling over this new information. Julian had always cared more about appearances than reality. If his prestigious firm was unhappy, he might indeed seek a less public resolution. But Sage wasn't interested in private deals or compromises, not anymore. This had grown beyond her personal fight for Maverick. It had become a statement about how animals should be treated in divorce cases, not as property to be divided, but as family members whose welfare mattered. Tomorrow, one way or another, a judge would decide Maverick's fate, and regardless of the outcome, Sage had already found her purpose. The courtroom felt smaller than Sage remembered, or perhaps it was the crowd that made it seem so. Clinic staff, clients, community supporters, filling the benches. Julian sat at the opposite table, flanked by 2 attorneys from his firm, his expression carefully neutral. Judge Martinez entered, a woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair and observant eyes behind rectangular glasses. She reviewed the file while the courtroom settled. "This is a petition for reconsideration of the custody arrangement for... She paused, looking up. "A Siberian husky named Maverick." "Yes, Your Honor," Tariq confirmed, rising. "I see, and the grounds for reconsideration. New evidence of neglect not available at the original hearing, Your Honor, and substantial change in circumstances regarding the animal's welfare." Julian's attorney interjected. "Your Honor, this is a settled property division matter. Ms. Chen is simply experiencing regret over the court's prior ruling. Judge Martinez's gaze sharpened. Counselor, I'll determine the nature of this case after hearing the evidence. Please proceed, Mr. Patel. Tariq called Dr. Patel first. The veterinarian calmly detailed Maverick's condition when he arrived at the clinic with Julian: weight loss, dull coat, signs of nutritional deficiency. In your professional opinion, Tariq asked, were these conditions consistent with proper care? No, Dr. Patel stated firmly. They were consistent with neglect, whether intentional or through ignorance of basic canine needs. Julian's attorney, on cross-examination, tried to suggest Maverick's condition could have resulted from stress or adjustment to a new home. Dr. Patel remained unshakable. Weight loss of that magnitude in a healthy adult dog indicates inadequate nutrition over a sustained period, not temporary stress. Next came the daycare employee, who testified about Julian's pattern of leaving Maverick for extended hours several nights a week. The dog rarely ate while in our care. He seemed depressed, constantly looking toward the door. Julian shifted uncomfortably as the testimony continued. His lawyers whispered urgently to him. When Kate took the stand, the courtroom tensed. She looked directly at Julian as she described his statements about using Maverick to hurt Sage. The screenshots of texts and transcripts of voice messages were entered into evidence. Julian's own words damning him. He said, and I quote, "I don't even like the damn dog. But seeing her face when they gave him to me was worth it." Julian's attorney objected, calling Kate's testimony the vindictive fabrications of a scorned woman. Judge Martinez overruled by the time Sage testified, describing Maverick's central role during her cancer treatment and recovery. Julian's demeanor had shifted from confidence to visible concern. He slept beside my hospital bed during every treatment they allowed, Sage explained. When I was too weak to walk, he would lie beside me for hours. He gave me a reason to fight. She detailed Maverick's improvement since returning to her care, supported by follow-up veterinary reports and photos showing his recovery. As the hearing stretched into its third hour, Judge Martinez called a brief recess. In the hallway, Julian approached Sage, his attorneys hovering anxiously nearby. "This has gone far enough," he said in a low voice. "You've made your point. Let's settle this. Now you, keep the dog. I drop all complaints against your clinic." Sage studied his face, not concerned for Maverick, just worried about the damage to his reputation as damning testimony mounted. "No," she replied simply. "Let the judge decide." When court resumed, Judge Martinez listened to closing arguments, then removed her glasses thoughtfully. "This case," she began, while technically about property division, highlights the evolving understanding of companion animals in our society. Mr. Chen was awarded custody of Maverick in the original divorce decree based on standard property division principles. However, substantial evidence has been presented showing that decision may not serve the animal's best interests. She reviewed the evidence methodically, the veterinary reports, the daycare testimony, Kate's revelations about Julian's motives. Most compelling, she continued, is the documented history of the animal's bond with Ms. Chen during her illness, contrasted with Mr. Chen's demonstrated indifference to the animal's well-being. Julian stared straight ahead, jaw tight. Therefore, Judge Martinez concluded, "I am granting the petition for reconsideration and awarding full custody of Maverick to Ms. Chen, effective immediately." The courtroom erupted in muffled cheers. Furthermore, the judge added, silencing the room, "I am placing on record that this decision is based on the welfare of the animal, which I believe should be a primary consideration in such cases." As the judge stood to leave, Sage turned to Tariq, tears of relief streaming down her face. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." 1 year later, Sage stood in the newly expanded reception area of Paws and Hearts, watching his clients and their pets arrive for the clinic's anniversary celebration. The space was barely recognizable from when she had first purchased it, bright, modern, welcoming, yet still maintaining the warmth that had always characterized Dr. Rivera's practice. Maverick lounged behind the reception desk, now the official clinic mascot. At 5 years old, he was in his prime coat, gleaming blue eyes, bright, a calming presence for nervous animals coming through the doors. "I still can't believe how much has changed," Rosa remarked, joining Sage by the window. "Remember when we thought the clinic might have to close?" Sage smiled, watching a young family enter with their rescue puppy. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best decisions. The clinic had indeed flourished. Their financial hardship program had gained national attention, with other veterinary practices adopting similar models. The divorce support group had expanded to 3 chapters across the city. Most importantly, they had maintained Dr. Rivera's commitment to compassionate care while becoming financially sustainable. Special delivery, Dr. Patel called, carrying in a large cake decorated with animal paw prints and the clinic's logo. The bakery outdid themselves. As the celebration began, Sage circulated among clients and staff, accepting congratulations and sharing stories. Dr. Rivera had returned for the occasion, beaming with pride at what her clinic had become. "You've exceeded all my expectations," she told Sage, embracing her warmly. "This place has never been more alive." Midway through the event, the front door chimed. Sage glanced up to see Julian standing awkwardly in the entrance, holding a carrier. With a small kitten inside, the room quieted, those familiar with their history watching curiously. Maverick, recognizing Julian, showed no excitement, merely a brief acknowledgement before settling back onto his cushion. Sage approached her ex-husband, maintaining professional composure. "Can I help you?" Julian cleared his throat. "I found this kitten in the parking garage at work. It needs medical attention." Sure enough, the tiny tortoiseshell in the carrier looked malnourished, its eyes crusted. "There are other clinics closer to your office," Sage pointed out. Julian had the grace to look uncomfortable. "I know, but this is the best one." After a moment, Sage nodded to Dr. Patel, who gently took the carrier. "We'll examine her right away." As Dr. Patel carried the kitten to an exam room, Julian lingered. "The place looks good," he offered awkwardly. "I've heard what you've done with it, thank you." A silence stretched between them, years of history compressed into a moment. "I'm sorry," Julian finally said, so quietly Sage almost missed it. "Not just about Maverick, about everything." Sage studied the man she had once loved, seeing for the first time not anger or resentment, but something like regret in his eyes. "Accept your apology," she said evenly. "But the clinic has a policy about refusing service to those with documented history of animal neglect." Julian nodded, accepting this. "I understand. I can find another place for regular care. I just wanted to bring this one here." "We'll make an exception for the kitten," Sage decided, "but not for you." After Julian left, Dr. Rivera found Sage in her office, staring out the window. "That was quite a moment," the older woman observed. "You okay?" "Better than okay," Sage replied honestly. "A year ago, seeing Julian would have reopened all those wounds. Now it's just ... closure." Dr. Rivera smiled knowingly. "You've built something meaningful here. Something that matters more than old hurts." Later that evening, after the celebration ended and the clinic closed, Sage and Maverick walked home through the quiet streets. They took the long route, passing the courthouse where they had lost and then regained each other. Home. Sage sat on her sofa, Maverick's head heavy on her lap. She scrolled through photos from the day, staff laughing, clients sharing stories, Dr. Rivera cutting the anniversary cake. The last image was one Rosa had captured without Sage noticing, Sage kneeling to comfort a nervous dog, Maverick sitting protectively beside them both, their silhouettes framed by the clinic's front window. It was the perfect encapsulation of the journey from loss to purpose, from pain to healing. "We made it, Mav," she whispered, scratching behind his ears. The husky sighed contentedly, blue eyes drifting closed. Outside, a light snow began to fall, dusting the city in a clean, fresh blanket of white. A new season, a new beginning. Sometimes, the most precious things in life are those we have to fight for. And sometimes, when life takes an unexpected turn, we find ourselves exactly where we were meant to be all along. If you've ever loved an animal who got you through your darkest days, who deserves to be treated as family and not property, share this story. Together, we can change how the world sees the bonds between humans and their animal companions.